Hello, I'm Josie Dom. Welcome to day 5 of the Animalympics Summer 2021 celebration. I wanted to talk to you tonight about how Animalympics came about, and this is, I've got a drink of wine here, but I shall pop it over there so I don't knock it over in my excitement to talk to you. I wanted to explain the story behind the story of the Animalympics, and today we have part 1. There'll be other parts later in my Animalympics 17-day extravaganza. Hope you've enjoyed it so far. If you haven't seen any of the other videos, just scroll back, depending on where you're watching, and you'll find them. As I say, we're on day 5, so we've had 4 days. And if you turn your mind back to Easter or thereabouts in 2020, the UK had not long gone into lockdown. The schools had closed early before the Easter holidays came, and the weather was fantastic. So many people, myself and my daughter included, were camping in our own gardens because we couldn't go anywhere else, could we? Couldn't have a holiday. So that's kind of the scene, setting the scene. We have a 3-person tent, but it was just myself and my daughter because my husband and my son declined our kind offer to join us, basically. Well, they couldn't both fit. My son is, well, he was 14 at the time, so that's not cool to hang out in the garden with his mum and his sister. So it was just me and my daughter. She was 11 at the time, and if anybody who's watching knows me and my daughter, we like to talk nonsense. We just love making things up. We love playing with words, making each other laugh. It's what we do. And so we were in the tent one evening, and she told me that sloths were good swimmers. And I said to her, I wonder what other sports, human sports, would animals be good at? So we just started to talk about what animals would be good at which sport. And then it just got me thinking. We were probably giggling over that for a good half an hour. And I don't think I had my notebook with me, which is most unusual. I usually carry a notebook and a pen wherever I go, but not to the tent that night. So I just put it in my phone, typed it into my phone, and we just wrote down the name of the animal and the name of the sport that they would do. And I don't think it was at that time during that conversation that I said to her about writing something about the Olympics, but in the night I kind of obviously mulled it over in my mind, and came up with the idea of the animal kingdom taking over the Olympics. And I have a feeling that at the time everybody was kind of on tenterhooks to find out what the IOC, International Olympic Committee, would decide as to whether the Olympics could go ahead. And they actually left it quite late in the day, if you might remember, to actually announce that it wasn't going to happen last year and they would postpone it for a year. So when I started writing my story, I think the Olympics was in the balance, but I was writing it as if it would be cancelled, and then it was cancelled. So, and obviously we've just had the actual Olympics 2020 going on, and Paralympics coming up at the end of the month. So I wrote the first couple of verses. I'm just love a notebook, and I'm trying to find the very beginning. Have you heard the news? The song thrush sang on high. The people are staying indoors. It's now our turn to fly. I haven't got it in this notebook, but that's how the story began. And the next morning, while I was still in the tent, while we were still in the tent, I woke up. My daughter was still asleep. I came indoors to get notepad and pen. Went back to the tent and wrote down that's the beginning of the first verse. There's another 4 lines, which I also wrote down at the time. And then the start of the next verse is in there too. And then we, at some point in the same day or in the next few days, we started writing down, this is my handwriting in my notebook. I don't know if you can see it there. So it's a list of, where is it? This is a list of the animals with their sports. So we've got sloths swimming for the first one, ostriches, golf. Somewhere in here, there's a list of sports. I had to then go online and find out all the sports that that were in the Olympics. And that page there shows all of the sports with the animals. Now what I decided was that we wouldn't have all of the cycling events, because obviously if you've watched the Olympics that has just happened, we have the velodrome cycling, there's BMX, isn't there? There's I think there's mountain biking. I think we had it in Essex in 2012, so I guess it's still happening. I didn't see any coverage of that this year, so not 100% sure, but lots of different cycling events. So I just said no, we'll only have one cycling. There's shooting in the Olympics, and I didn't think that was appropriate for a children's book, so I took that out. I added in orienteering because that is my children's, both my son and my daughter, orienteer. They're really brilliant at it. My son has represented England. Actually, that was just before lockdown as well, in 2020. So he did really well to get that spot. So I put orienteering into the Animalympics, even though it's not in the real Olympics. That's the only one I added in. But as I say, I took some out. So with regards to all of the running events, I've got one sprint event, that's the cheetahs, and I've got one other running event, I've got 2 others actually. I've got the marathon, which I kind of feel that deserved a verse of its own, and I've got the 5k. So I haven't got all of the distances that you'd see at the Olympics, but then I've got the more obscure sports in there, such as golf, archery, street dancing. So that was, and we had to think of an animal that worked in our minds for the sport. So for instance, street dancing has to be birds of paradise, that their plumage, and obviously they do the dance, the males do the dance to attract the females. So in our minds that was perfect. So if you want to know more about which animals are doing which sport, you can listen out to some of the celebrity readings that are going on over the 17-day extravaganza, or buy the book, of course, josiedom.co.uk. I wanted also to explain that once we've decided all of the sports, which sports we'd have and which animals would be doing those, we realised that the Olympics is not just made up of the sports. You've got all of the people that enable the Olympics to happen. So we've got that in. We've got the judges, which are the meerkats. We've got commentators, caterers, rubbish collectors, security guards, ticket collectors, flag bearers, first aiders, and all of the officials down on the track doing the measuring and so on, which and that is what I have. I say we because I kind of Abigail helped me in terms of thinking of ideas. So we again, I can't help myself. We put those all of the animals that were helping to bring the Animalympics together into the closing ceremony verse, and I will be sharing that with you on the 24th of August. So come back and you'll hear that read by Adam Hills. And I think that's all for part 1 of the story behind the story. I just have a quick look at my list, and I've got down to share part 2 of the story behind the story with you on Saturday this weekend. So pop back again and you'll hear the next instalment. If you are in the Colchester area, then head on over to the High Street tomorrow. I'll be with Red Lion Books at 11 o'clock. I'm doing a book signing with them, and I've spent the evening making flags. So you can pick up one of my fabulous Animalympics flags and a copy of the book. And obviously I will be happy to sign that for you. I'll see you there.